Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. Today's episode is going to be talking about the subtle game changing effect of consistency. Now, most people, I think, chase big moves, viral moments, overnight success, but I think in the real world, the real power lies in the quiet daily choices when no one else is watching, and the daily consistent habits that we have that compound over time. Let me ask you, have you ever felt like you're putting in effort but not seeing the results? Well, I want to let you know that that's normal, and that's where consistency really matters the most. It really matters the most because when no one else is watching and when you don't see the results of your own work yet, it means that you're building something, and it means that you are consistently getting towards a bigger goal. Now, when you say you don't see results for a year or 2 years, maybe then we can start having the conversation of maybe we should pivot a little bit. But for the majority of people, they just aren't working consistently for a long enough period of time. And that's saying that to me as well. Like, I'm saying this to myself because I sometimes get stuck in the trap of thinking that I don't have to work and I can just work once and then have everything happen magically. But in reality, it's better to work consistently over a long period of time, small amounts, rather than having chunks of work scattered around the timeline. Consistency is where faith meets action. It's where your habits become more of a character of who you are. And I think ultimately it's about how you can build something that lasts over time rather than building something that is more built for the hype. In business, in life, in your spiritual walk, everything needs to have consistent daily action on it, or eventually it will kind of die out. You don't become great in the spotlight of this world. You become great in the quiet moments when no one else is watching you. So, why is it that consistency is the true foundation of this world and not something else? Well, to find that out, I just wanted to kind of dive into why consistency is so important. Now, consistency builds trust with you, yourself, God, and others. And that's extremely important because when you consistently show up, even for the small things, you reinforce to yourself your own integrity. Like, for example, like if I were to say, I want to start a business, but, and I want to say, like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every single day and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I consistently show up. Now I'm telling myself that I actually can do that thing that I'm doing. I'm consistently showing up. I'm consistently putting in the work necessary to get the result that I want to get to. Right? Like, that makes sense. Like, I'm doing the work in order to get the result, and I'm reinforcing that behavior of good habits because I'm doing the same thing or a similar thing over and over to get to the goal that I want to get to. In Luke 16:10 it says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." Showing up daily, faithfully, trains us to trust ourselves, like I just said. And it's extremely important to understand this because when we work on ourselves on a daily basis, we consistently improve small bits daily, allowing ourselves to see the results of our work on a long timeline. In business, clients, partners, your team will start to notice if you consistently put in the action. Personal life, your wife, your business partner, they'll see the effort that you put in. It builds discipline and it builds spiritual maturity. Faith without follow up or follow through is just hope. Discipline turns faith into reality, and you have to understand that the ability to lock in a set routine and stick to it, knowing that it will benefit you in the long term, will get you to the destination you want to get to quicker than what you could do if you are inconsistent and never have a consistent routine. Now, the power of compounding growth is extremely important to touch here, because when we think consistency, we're like, okay, well, I can be consistent, but what the heck is the point of being consistent, right? Well, consistency and understanding that showing up every day is not really that flashy and not that interesting, but it has quite the snowball or the exponential effect. Small habits that are repeated over months, over days, over years equal to extraordinary results. Like Aristotle even said, what we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So even Aristotle, one of the amazing minds, thought the same way. We have to understand that if we want to get something and we want to get somewhere, if we act in accordance to that person before we become that person, and we repeatedly do the actions necessary to get there, then we will get there. It's not like an act. It's not a facade. It's a habit that you can build, that you can work towards to get to that place that you want to get to. Every email, every conversation that you have with your friends, or that business part, or every meeting that you prepare for ahead of time, every small thing that you do, every Bible verse that you meditate on, every conversation that you have with a friend that triggers something important in you compounds over time. And that's extremely, extremely, extremely important. Now, resilience through the repetition of doing things is also an added benefit. The more consistency you have, the stronger you will be mentally and spiritually. Challenges that you have will become very much easier to handle because the foundation that you have is already built, right? You learn patience. You learn how to trust God's timing rather than relying on your own timing. And you have to realize, and you realize that the resilience that you've gained is so much greater than the ones that you've had before. In James 1 verses 4, it says, "Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing." Now, I think consistency is not about being perfect and not having perfection, but rather it's about showing up over and over until you become unshakable, undisputable, unrecognizable. You have to understand this. Now, the challenges of staying consistent are vast, and we have to tackle them one by one because there is a whole list of challenges of staying consistent. Now, there's human nature and there's discipline, and there's two different places, and they're very, very far apart. We all, as humans, want instant results. And I think the new day and age that we live in, with constant dopamine and the constant age of getting attention and the rewards that we want right away, has also made this a bit worse. But we want the high of getting the result immediately. But life, business, spiritual growth, I think are all marathons. They're not the short 40-meter dash that you think they are, but they're more of the 44 kilometers or 26 miles of running. Now, I could have butchered that because I don't know my conversions that well, but I tried my best. You'll get tired, you'll get discouraged, but you have to understand that it's normal. Being happy and being perfect all the time is not a sign or an indication that you've got or stayed consistent. But you have to understand that staying consistent comes with tiredness. You'll get discouraged. You'll feel unnormal. You might feel left out, but that's normal because you're doing something that not many people are, which is staying consistent, showing up every day, daily, showcasing that you can do something if you put your mind to it. Now, the second point that we have to kind of fight in staying consistent is the fear of missing out. This is so big. Now, I used to have super, super bad FOMO, or fear of missing out. Because when we see other people's big moments, We feel like we're behind. We feel like we should be at their level. We should be past them. We should be better than them. Like, why is that person so successful, but why can't I be there? Now you're making excuses for yourself, right? Like, you have to understand that your timeline might be different than theirs. Maybe you weren't blessed with the opportunity that they had, and that's okay. Maybe your opportunity is right now when you stay consistent with the work that they have, or maybe they're putting in the work while you're sitting down and doing nothing. You have to shift your mindset and say, okay, it's okay that I'm missing this out. If they actually wanted me there, if they actually wanted my presence, they actually wanted my company, then they would actually reach out. And I think it's, first of all, it's not an easy thing to do, to accept that, understanding and letting go of people that might have been in your life that you thought were in your life forever, but maybe they weren't. You have to understand that being able to let go, being able to understand and be okay with missing out on certain things in order to protect your peace, in order to get better and get into better circles, so that maybe in 10 years' time, you are down this road where they couldn't have imagined you to be, because you are working on yourself daily, consistently, over time. Consistency will always reward depth, and it will always reward the grit and the determination and the consistent, boring work that no one else wants to do. Not that normal flashiness that everyone promotes online. In Proverbs 21:5, it says, the plans of delight lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. We all have to remember, if we just rush the process, if we just try to move a bit too quickly and compare ourselves to others and think that we're not doing well, then we're always going to lead ourselves down the wrong path. Now, I think another one is, or the final point of this battle, is internal resilience or internal resistance. I shouldn't have said resilience, I should have said resistance. But some days your mind, you have to fight against it, right? Like, for example, there's times where you're like, okay, Alan, skip the gym. Alan, skip the gym. You don't have to go today. Or, Alan, you don't have to do this thing with the business. Or, Alan, you don't have to film this podcast. Take the shortcut. Don't do it. Just post that story saying that you won't do the thing that you were going to do. Whatever it might be, you have to understand that some days you're going to have to fight that mind, fight that inner voice that says you don't want to do something, even when you know you need to do it. For example, today I didn't really feel motivated to film this podcast, but what am I doing? Filming the podcast. Because I know that if I let my mind win, then I'm not going to get to the places that I want to get to in life. You have to recognize it, you have to accept it, and then choose to take action anyway. The hardest part of consistency is showing up when you do not feel like it. That's the moment where it defines who you are and who you're going to become in the future. And that's extremely important to understand, because if you let your internal mind always win, always choose and dictate what you do on basing it on how you feel, then you're never going to get to the place you want to get to, because you're never going to feel like doing that thing that's hard to get to the place, that destination, that end goal that you might want to reach. Now, having consistency in faith is extremely important, and I want to touch on that a little bit. So, daily prayer, daily scripture, gratitude, I think is immensely powerful and immensely important to do, honestly, because it has such an important and such a valuable implication on our day-to-day lives. In Philippians 4:13, it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You're training your spirit to rely on God, not just emotions or circumstances that might come up. Like, I think a lot of people in our day and age right now are very, very emotional. We do things based on what we feel like. We do things based on, okay, I feel this way. I'm going to do this thing because I feel this way, and I'm not going to do this thing because I feel this way. We have to understand that if you are relying and you are trying to stay consistent with God, if you are trying to be emotionally mature, trying to stay consistent with your faith, it's not always going to be fun. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be and feel like that thing that you always thought it might feel like. It's always going to challenge you. It's going to make you bigger, but that is where the growth happens. That's where the consistency comes in. That's where you feel the growth happening. You'll look back 10 years from now and thank yourself for doing those things. But if you didn't take those sacrifices, then is your future self 10 years ago, 10 years from now, ever going to thank you for the things that you did? In my opinion, I don't think so. So be consistent, understand the circumstances, and understand the repercussions of not taking action if you don't do it. Now, there's business consistency, which is also super, super important. Daily tasks, relationship building with your clients, your customers, even investors is extremely important, right? And we have to consistently work on those relationships. We have to consistently work on content creation or advertisements or learning things online. Maybe you're watching YouTube videos to learn how to do ads, or you're paying someone to teach you how to do marketing. It doesn't matter what it is, but you have to constantly be learning. You have to consistently putting in the effort, because if you don't, then don't expect yourself to find and have immense success right off the gate like that. Make small incremental progress and systems so that you can focus on small growth. Focus on systems, focus on the inputs that you can put in, not just the outcomes of what you want, right? Like, I think I forget who it was. I think it was Seneca. It says, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but we waste much of it." I think it's along those lines. I'll put it up on the screen if it isn't. And we have to understand that personal growth has consistency, business has consistency, faith has a consistency. Literally every pillar of your life has a form of consistency. And it's kind of a beautiful thing. I like to think of it like kind of like those ancient Roman or Greek, I don't remember, buildings where they have those huge pillars. And I always think of my life as having those pillars. One pillar is for my relationships. One pillar is for my friends. One pillar is for my business. One pillar is for my health. One pillar is for my personal growth in some certain area. One pillar is for my language learning or my psychological benefit. It doesn't matter what the pillars are. Just have a base pillars, build on those, and then on top of that, you can say, okay, I'm doing wealth. One of my pillars is wealth. Okay, now I'm going to have a business on top of that, and I'm going to have a part-time job at the same time, and I'm going to do, you get the idea. I think it's extremely important to understand that every single part of your life has consistency, and it's important to stay consistent, but not overwhelm yourself by doing the same thing or doing a similar thing to get to the place you want to get to quicker. Personal growth has consistency like eat, sleep, exercise, diet, mental discipline, reflection, like connecting with God is extremely important. I could list off things going on forever, but I think the thing that's most important is understanding that you're not just building a business, you're building a vessel that's capable of carrying a God-sized purpose in you. God gave you a purpose, and it's your job to carry that purpose and make it into fruits. Consistency is a bridge between who you are today and the person God wants you to become. And it's that one bridge that keeps you and connects the two. And I think it's very, very important. So what are some actionable steps that we can do today that will affect our tomorrow? Now, I think this is what I would do starting is today, write down and audit your current consistency. How consistent are you on a daily basis today? Now, you could be horrible, and that's fine because you have somewhere to work from. You could be amazing, but you still have something to work on. And that's the beauty with the consistency, is because consistency comes up every single day, and it doesn't care how you feel. It keeps you responsible to do the things that are necessary to complete. Write down some daily routines. Maybe you can write down some habits that hurt or benefit you. Those are two simple things that you can do. Personally, I don't really like having a strict daily routine. I'm not that type of person. But I know some people love having that organizational structure. I prefer having things that I need to get done in the day and then completing those tasks. So for example, I like having 2 to 5 things that I need to complete. If I complete those things in that day, I consider that day a success. And having those targets allows you to get to that destination, that goal, that idea of where you want to get to quicker. Identifying what habits hurt and help you is also kind of a positive thing that you can do, because if you understand that this habit is hurting you and this habit is helping you, then you can go towards the one that's helping you and leave the one that's hurting you. I think it's important to start small and then start to build momentum over time. You can pick one habit in each area of your life, like each pillar of your life, and kind of go for it. Commit to that one habit for 7 days even, and just track it and see how it happens. If it doesn't help or doesn't really make a difference, then maybe you can bring it back in. But if it does make a substantial difference, then change it. I think another one that's very important is having accountability with people around you. If you don't have accountability, then it's very, very hard and very, very hard to stay consistent. So having accountability, sharing your goals with maybe a mentor or a coach or someone that you spend time with regularly is very important. I mean, in Proverbs 27:17, it says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And it's important to understand this. Understanding that reflecting weekly can completely transform your next week. On Sundays, usually like today, I can come back, write down some things that I want to get done this week, look back at it from the last weeks and reflect on this past week and say, okay, what did I do good? What did I do bad? What could I work on? What could I do that can make the biggest impact with the least amount of effort? And just think about in terms of leverage, in terms of what I can do better and what I can focus on in the future. Now, I think the final one that you can do is focus on wins. Celebrate your small wins that you have on a daily basis. I mean, consistency is not invisible. I mean, maybe it feels very, very tedious and toiling. That does not make sense. Taxing on you, but it's extremely powerful over time. And I think it's very, very important to understand that if you wait for external validation to do the things that you say you want to do, it's going to take a very, very long time, if at all, to start the thing that you want to start. So just don't wait for external validation. Your reward is internal, and the internal growth and God's calling towards you is internal, not external. If you want to live the life God has promised you, start showing up faithfully every single day with what you have and be grateful for everything that you have on a day-to-day basis. Now, finally, I kind of want to wrap this up and just talk about consistency and how it doesn't have to be quiet. Now, consistency is very, very quiet. It doesn't have to show off, but it very much so compounds. It builds trust, resilience, character, and it's going to be a very, very big foundation for you, for faith, for business, for life itself. And you have to remember you're imperfect. I'm imperfect. You're imperfect. But that's why consistency matters so much. If you take nothing else away from this today, take this. Show up, repeat, trust God, grow. Every single day, think of it. Okay, I'm going to show up. I'm going to repeat the things that I need to do. I'm going to trust God, and I'm going to grow because of it. Your mission, your purpose, your calling, it's never going to be built in a day. It's going to be built in the quiet choices you make when no one else is watching. I love each and every one of you. I pray for your success. And know I'm always here for you if you need anything. I'll see you guys next week.